Thank you so much for coming to Session 2 of Spirit, the stimulating program initiative for retirees that inspires thought. I'm Judy Steinig, Rebbitzin of the Young Israel of Bayside and Associate Director, Community Services of the Orthodox Union, and it is a pleasure to welcome all of you. This event is a program of the OU in conjunction with Young Israel of Woodmere, OHEL, and STAJE, an organization that works with retirees to bring Jewish meaning to their next stage of life. Spirit has been presented in Teaneck, New Jersey, Boynton Beach, and Boca Raton, Florida, and we are so happy to be presenting it here in the 5 towns. Those of you who do not live in the 5 towns and are in other communities, we're very, very happy to have you. And if you would like to see this program in your community, tell the officers and leadership of your shul to please contact us at the OU, because we'd like to see it in many, many communities. The OU recognizes that as the generation of baby boomers leaves their professional responsibilities, they are looking for educational stimulation. The goal of this program is to provide active retirees with opportunities for spiritual and intellectual growth within their communities. We truly appreciate the hospitality of Young Israel of Woodmere and the assistance of Rabbi Billet Morad Asra, who spoke for us last week, Rabbi Axelrod, Danny Frankel, Executive Director, the board and membership of the synagogue for the promotion of this program. And by the way, for those of you who missed last week's program with Rabbi Billet and Harriet Blank, as you can see, we're having a video of the program, and Moshe, it's going to be, it's available now, right? The OU will be putting it up online, and it will be accessible to everyone very, very shortly. I'd also like to thank who's out in the lobby, Adina Schwartzbaum, our associate from the OU, who's been here since very early this morning, making sure that we had everything we needed for the program. Today's program will take a new look at nutrition and how we make food choices. We are very happy to have Bonnie Giller speak on vibrant living through mindful eating to improve your weight, digestion, and health. She will be followed later on by Rabbi Eitan Feiner on food, glorious food, and the Torahs Mandate for healthy eating. We want to thank you so much for coming. We want to tell you to enjoy the program. And next week, tell your friends to join us for the rest of the series. Last week, for those of you who were there, you know we had 2 rows of tables. Now we have 3. In Kenai Nahara, they're all filled. But we still have more room, so we're happy for the end series. And during the break, I will tell you what's up and coming to fill the rest of this room. So please let everybody know how excellent this program is and enjoy the day. It's my pleasure to call upon Bonnie Giller.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I am very, very excited to be here this afternoon to talk with you about a topic that I am very, very passionate about. Why I'm so passionate about it, I'm going to share with you shortly. And it's only been in the last 3 to 4 years that I have actually really come to love this topic and to learn more and more about it and sharing it with so many people. As a registered dietitian, nutritionist, certified diabetes educator, and certified intuitive eating counselor, I help chronic dieters who are struggling to lose weight and people with medical conditions such as diabetes and IBS break free from the pain of dieting and take back control so they can achieve the healthy body and life that they want. And I do this by providing them with the 3 things they really need to succeed: a healthy non-diet mindset, nutrition education, and caring support. I utilize the principles of intuitive eating, which is eating based on your physiological need to eat, your hunger and your satiety cues, not based on situations, not based on emotions. And the result is they lose the weight, keep it off, achieve optimal blood sugar control, and live a healthy life with guilt-free eating and symptom-free. So today's topic, vibrant living through mindful eating, to improve weight, digestion, and health. Well, my big promise right here and right now is by the end of this presentation, you will have the basic principles that you need in your toolbox in order to be a mindful eater. so that you can truly enjoy the pleasures of eating without feelings of deprivation, without feelings of restriction, with the ultimate goal of living a healthy and vibrant life. But before we go into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about my story. That's my clan. I'm married. I have 4 children. My oldest son is married. That's my grandson, Evan, who turned 11 months yesterday. Thank you. My husband's missing from the picture because we found out that he's always the one taking the pictures, and I couldn't find one with him in it, so we will have to change that. One of the most challenging times in my life was after I had my 4th child, and that's Lauren with the purple glasses. That was at a bat mitzvah celebration we were recently at. She will actually, Met Hashem, be bat mitzvah next month. And why was it challenging? Because I had 3 jobs at the time. I was running 2 nutrition offices. I was the director of a dietetic internship program, and I was running around a lot. I was traveling. I was doing so much. I was exhausted. I was depleted. And I remember going to my primary care physician at some point and just complaining to him how I couldn't bounce back to the way I was before that last pregnancy. And he said to me, well, you know what you need to do. You need to get back to your exercise, because I always was an exerciser. And I just looked at him and I said, no offense to the men here, you're such a man. You just don't understand. I have so much on my plate. I don't have time for me. And I just uttered basically the words that is one of the most, I think, used excuses not to exercise. I don't have time. And I knew that. And all the way driving home, I was crying in the car and I was thinking, you know, how am I going to make this happen? And I knew by the time I got home that I needed to make a change. I needed to make self-care a priority. I need to get back to my mindful eating and living so that I could be the best that I could be for everybody. And that's what I did. And I went on to continue to practice. Was feeling great and feeling strong. And all the years in my practice, I'm in practice now 26 years. And I would create, I never did diets by the definition of diets. You know, clients would come in to see me and I would create healthy meal plans for them depending on what their needs were. You know, a couple years ago, I realized something is not right for a certain class of the individuals that I'm working with. Why? Because when they would follow the eating plan or the meal plan, the healthy eating plan that I created for them, they were able to shed the weight and their blood sugars improved and so forth, but yet, why were some of them gaining some of that weight back? And I realized that these were the people that struggled year after year. These were the people that were chronic dieters, that turned the healthy eating plan into rules. And rules don't ever work. And so I researched and I tried to find another solution, and that's when I came upon the intuitive eating that I mentioned a moment ago. And I'll show you how mindful eating and intuitive eating go hand in hand. And so for the last several years, that's how I work mostly with my clients who are struggling like this, utilizing intuitive eating, utilizing mindful eating. So the objectives for today is we are going to define what mindful eating is. I would like to tell you what it isn't, what it is, and how it's going to benefit your weight, whether you need to lose weight, gain weight, or maintain weight, your digestion, and your health. You will learn 4 steps on how to practice mindful eating. I will help you to understand how to identify between hunger versus satiety, and you will learn some easy tips that you can incorporate for mindful eating into your daily schedule today. So I've been mentioning about intuitive eating, so before I delve into mindful eating, I do want to just talk a little bit about this because I think it's really important. I started to say intuitive eating is eating characterized by your physiological need to eat. Again, your hunger and your satiety signals. Not based on situations, so not based on a kiddush you're going to after davening, not based on a wedding that you're going to, and not based on emotions. Emotions you think of sad, angry, frustrated, lonely. Boredom is one of the most subtle forms of an emotional trigger. that can actually lead to overeating. So eating is not based on any of that. It's based solely on your intuitive signals. We were all born intuitive eaters. So if you remember, if you have children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren, and they cried a certain cry, you would say, they're hungry, that's a hungry cry. And you would feed them. And when the baby pushed away the breast or the bottle, they had enough, well-meaning parents, well-meaning moms, grandparents, what would we do? I'm guilty. I did this to my children. I would, no, there's 2 ounces left in the bottle. They have to have 2 more ounces. Or they're sitting in the high chair and we're trying to feed them the applesauce and we're doing all sorts of airplane noises and piercing the spoon against the lips because they need to get that extra spoon in. We're taking them further and further away from what they were born with. And that is the innate ability to be able to say, I'm full, I don't want any more. And so even as adults, many times adults have lost that over the years for a lot of different reasons, which I'm not going to delve into right now, but my point is that that ability is within every one of you. It is deep down inside. And what my work is helping people bring it back up to the surface. When somebody is an intuitive eater, they have 3 core characteristics. The very first characteristic of an intuitive eater is giving themselves unconditional permission to eat when they're hungry what food they desire. That's often difficult for somebody to grasp. Why? Because when people are trying to lose weight or people have restrictions on their eating, there are foods that they have on certain lists. I can't have this. This is my can't have list. This is forbidden. This is legal or illegal. However you might name your list. You know what I'm talking about. So we place conditions on our food. And when we place conditions on our food, eventually there will be some kind of trigger that will lead us to have just one, but maybe another, and then the whole package, because I promise I'm not going to have any more tomorrow. Well, that leads to overeating. When you take these conditions off of your food and off of your eating, and you provide unconditional permission to eat, these foods don't hold so much power anymore, and you might actually find that you don't even enjoy those foods. The second core characteristic of an intuitive eater is eating for the physical and not the emotional. I mentioned that already. But that's reteaching somebody what hunger feels like, what satiety feels like. Many times people who are struggling wait until they get too hungry, or they eat until they're too full. So there are many different levels of hunger and satiety. And when you're an intuitive eater, you're understanding what those levels are, and you're eating solely for that physical. And third is reliance on your hunger and satiety signals to tell you when to eat and how much to eat. You're not relying on a meal plan. You're not relying on a menu. You're not relying on a diet book. You're not relying on a doctor telling you what to do, what to eat, what pill to take, what shake to drink. It's coming from within. Being an intuitive eater means you are learning or relearning about yourself from the inside out. I consider intuitive eating like a 3-part puzzle. Healthy mindset, that's what I'm speaking about now, having that healthy non-dieter's mindset. Then there's the sound nutrition education that needs to follow. I say it needs to follow because when I'm working with somebody who needs to really shift their mindset away from dieting, if we start with nutrition, oftentimes those become more rules. And so we work on shifting the mindset, understanding about the signals, and then talking and learning about nutrition. And of course, caring support, because any behavior change is difficult, and support is important. Mindfulness. We're going to talk about mindful eating, but I do want to take a moment to just talk in general about what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is maintaining a moment-to-moment awareness of your thoughts, your feelings, your bodily sensations, and your surrounding environment. So it's a state of where you're being conscious and you're aware of something and you're paying attention to your thoughts and your feelings without judging them. You're not believing that there's a right or a wrong way to think in any particular moment. When you're being mindful, your thoughts are tuning into what you're sensing in the present moment. Okay, you're not thinking about the past and you're not thinking about the future. And you could practice mindfulness in everything that you do. So for example, when you walk mindfully, you are walking knowing that you're putting one step in front of the other. You stop, you look at the scenery, you smell the roses, you take your time, you're enjoying that walk. You know where you're going to step next. When you're being mindful, you are accepting what is coming up into your mind and into your heart without judgment and without criticism. You are using what is coming into your awareness as a way to learn about yourself. This is versus mindlessness, which is automatic, habitual thoughts and actions. So an example of mindlessness would be if you were reading a book and you finish a chapter and you're thinking, what did I just read? I know I've done that. I have to reread the chapter because your mind wanders. Your mind goes elsewhere. You turn the pages, but you didn't absorb the content. Mindless eating is very similar to mindless reading. The fork comes to your mouth, but your mind is elsewhere. So what isn't mindful eating? Let's start with that. It's not a diet. There's no restrictions. There's no menus to follow, no rules. You don't have to count calories and points and grams of carbs, grams of fats. You don't have to eliminate major food groups. It's actually very refreshing not to have to, quote unquote, diet. So what is mindful eating? Mindful eating involves a special kind of awareness that you bring to the table while you eat. It's about the way you are eating. So it's less about what you're eating, and it's more about the way you are eating. You become aware of your habits, specifically the habits that might be sabotaging your healthy eating habits. And so you ask yourself, do I really need that snack? Or was that a habit? Did I walk into the kitchen while I was on the phone and open the kitchen cabinets mindlessly? Just happened. Didn't give it much thought. Or am I truly hungry? Is it a conditioned eating behavior? Well, with mindful eating, you are aware of the sensations that you experience with your eating as well. So you're experiencing the taste, the texture, the aroma of the food, and your feelings that come up about the food. Chronic dieters are so focused on the role that food plays in losing weight that they forget about a very, very important role of food, and that is to actually have pleasure in eating. So one of the beautiful things of being an intuitive eater and engaging in mindful eating is that you actually can learn to enjoy eating again. I do want to just clarify for a moment that mindful eating and intuitive eating are not one and the same, but they are often used interchangeably. Mindful eating or mindfulness is a necessary step on the path towards becoming an intuitive eater and is a very, very important part. So mindful eating, again, is the awareness of all the components that will influence your eating without judgment. And intuitive eating is a form of attunement that you have with your mind, your body, and your food. And that is guided by 10 principles. We're not going to be going into that today because that's not our topic. We're going to specifically now delve more into the mindful eating. But do understand that the mindful eating is an extremely important step on the path towards becoming an intuitive eater. So why should you practice mindful eating? Why is that important? Well, over the past 25 plus years, there's been a lot of studies done that have shown a very positive impact of mindful eating on your psychological health, your physical health, and that includes stress, depression, anxiety, chronic pain, heart disease, and your increased quality of life. These mindfulness practices, which include mindful eating practices, have been incorporated into many programs that have been used for people with obesity, eating disorders, and type 2 diabetes. And people report a decreased stress, which follows a decreased level of abdominal fat, which then decreases their risk for metabolic syndrome. So specifically, the evidence that we see with mindful eating and obesity and mindful eating and type 2 diabetes is there have been studies shown that when you include mindful eating practices along with meditation, not all the studies had a meditation component, but some did, and some nutrition education such as diabetes education, there was a significant improvement, therefore a reduction in one's weight, improvement in glycemic control, that's blood sugar level control, and for those who suffer from binge eating, a significant decrease in the number of binge eating disorders in the week, and decreased cortisol levels and decreased anxiety. And so there's great reason for us to really all consider that mindful eating might be something we should begin to practice if you're not already doing so. Well, specifically, one of the things I was going to address is mindful eating and your digestion, because that, I think, we don't talk enough about that. We are understanding a lot about the role of the mind-body connection in eating behavior, specifically in relation to digestion. When your mind is tuned out during mealtime, evidence shows that the digestive process may be reduced by 30 to 40%. So if you read the newspaper, watch TV, talk on the phone, read your emails, etc., while you're eating, you potentially are decreasing how you're digesting your food. The body is looking at this distraction as stress. So let me explain that a little bit more. What happens when your body is under stress? There's a whole host of physiological reactions that occur in the body. We call this the stress response or the fight or flight response. Many of you have likely heard of. And so in this stressful time, our blood sugar levels elevate because we need that extra energy to either fight or to flee. And our digestion slows down, even potentially comes to a halt, because we don't want our energy to be diverted to digestion if we need our energy to fight or flee. When the body is eating, when you're eating with all this distraction, your body is essentially saying distraction equals stress. That's how it's impacting your body. And so it's perceiving this distraction, all this outside stimuli, as stress, and therefore you are going to have a decrease in your digestion. And what will happen? You might then have bloating, you might have heartburn, food just doesn't go down, it's sitting in the stomach, bowel irregularities, you're just not digesting fully, and the food is sitting there. Maybe you have pain or cramping. The other important component is if your digestive system is slowing down or shutting down during this stressful situation, again, the body's perceiving all this distraction as stress, then there's a reduction in the number of digestive enzymes that are present to help digest what we call macronutrients. What are the macronutrients? Those are protein, fat, and carbs that is found in our food. In addition, all the wonderful vitamins and minerals in our food are also not going to be absorbed as well because of our slow digestion. So the nutritional value of even the healthiest of meals is going to be diminished if you are doing other things while you're eating. Okay, so the bottom line is, if you're overloading yourself with outside stimuli, your body doesn't know that it's really supposed to be digesting, and your digestion will decrease 30 to 40%, and you will likely have some unfavorable side effects that I've already mentioned. Mindful eating and weight control. Again, the mind-body connection plays a pivotal role in your ability to accurately assess hunger and fullness. So has this ever happened to you? You start eating something, you might get sidetracked by a phone call, or maybe the TV, the news, something came on the news, and then all of a sudden your food is gone and you don't remember eating it. We eat meal after meal, snack after snack, barely aware of what we're eating and how much we're consuming. And I'm going to tell you a little story that happened to me 26 and a half years ago. I'm married 29 years. My oldest son is now 27. And when he was just an infant in the crib, I was in school. I was going to school at night for my master's. I was in graduate school, and I would have to eat dinner. This is a true story. I would have to eat dinner before I went to school. So one night, this is like burned in my memory, he was in the crib, and I was eating dinner, and I was watching TV when I was eating dinner. I needed company, I guess. He was a baby, he was sleeping. And the show ended, I turned to my plate, and my baked potato was gone. And I thought, I didn't eat that potato. Where's the potato? The baby didn't eat the potato. I look on the floor, it's not on the floor. I really did not remember eating this baked potato. And I thought, I really want a baked potato, but I must have had it. But I really want a baked potato. I felt like cheated, like I wasn't feeling satisfied. So being sort of still newly married, right, I had dinner ready for my husband when he came home from work in the refrigerator, but I wasn't about to take his baked potato, because then he wouldn't have had a complete meal. So I went off to school, but I remember thinking that I will, because I knew back then what I wanted to do with my life and the messages I wanted to give off to people. And I said, I will tell this story one day when I have a private practice and I'm teaching and I'm presenting. I'm going to tell this story because it greatly impacted me. And I'm telling this story now for 27 years. It really made a difference. I do not allow TV on in my home when we're eating. Okay, should we take questions now, Judy, or at the end? At the end. Okay, we're taking questions at the end. I'm sorry. We're on a schedule.
Please hold everybody to questions. You'll have opportunity to let Bonnie finish.
So, well, that's one thing. Okay, now, eating fast is another thing we should talk about, right? Because eating fast and without paying attention doesn't give the brain enough time to register food intake. It does take, I know you probably have heard this, it does take at least 20 minutes for the brain to get the signal that you've had enough to eat. Now that's true. The signals go from the belly to the brain. The appetite center is located in the brain. It takes at least 20 minutes for that signal to get to the brain that we've had enough. And if we're eating quickly and we're eating fast, gulping it down, then we're taking in way too many calories, we're taking in way too much food, and then what happens? Unwanted weight gain. So mindful eating is powerful. It keeps you in the present and helps you facilitate change. We are a culture of multitasking. We will often pair two activities together. Let's face it, we drive and eat, we work and eat, we're at the computer and we eat, we're on the phone and we eat. I don't know about your specific situation, but for the most part, we multitask. So I ask you, how did you eat your breakfast today? Were you watching Good Morning America? The Today Show? The news? I know how you ate your lunch, but I don't know how you ate your breakfast. You have to give it some thought. What else were you doing? I will teach you what we call the basic mindful bite. This is the core of mindful eating. And I would recommend you use this technique with any solid food. This is the how-to. Step 1, put a piece of food on your fork. Step 2, bring the fork to your mouth. And as you bring that fork with that food to your mouth, slow down and become very aware of that movement. Step 3, once the food is in your mouth, clear your hands. So put your fork down, or if you just took a bite of the sandwich or the wrap you ate today, take a bite, put the wrap down. Step 4, chew this food with your mind in laser focus. I want you to concentrate on the taste of the food that's in your mouth and on the act of eating. Don't do anything else while you're chewing, just chew and pay full attention to what's in your mouth. Remember, not to the next forkful of food that you're already putting on the fork, okay? Only what's in your mouth. Number 5, keep chewing until the food is uniformly smooth, and use that consistency as your signal that you can swallow. And step 6, after you swallow, but before you put more food in your mouth, I want you to rest for a few seconds. And that's inserting a pause into your eating. That is what we call the basic mindful bite. Now, I'm sure that seems tedious to a lot of you, but as you practice it, it will become second nature. Hold on, one thing I want to say. So, I will often tell people or suggest to people, pick a food that you think to yourself, I could never eat just one. So I hear a lot from people, potato chips or Oreos, whichever. So let's just say potato chips. So I'll say to somebody, so buy a small 1-ounce pack of potato chips and practice this technique with those potato chips. And then ask yourself some key questions when you're done eating. First, what did you notice about your experience with the potato chips as you mindfully ate them? Second, what did you notice about the pace of your eating as you were eating this way? And third, what did you notice about the enjoyment that you had with the potato chips after you ate them? And you know what? A lot of people for whom these potato chips are taboo because I can't eat one, all of a sudden realize, I don't think I really like this. They're very greasy on my tongue, they're very greasy on my hands, I have an aftertaste. I don't think I'm going to eat these. The basic mindful bite. No matter what other mindful eating strategies you use, this basic mindful bite is the very best starting point for you. But there are 4 steps of mindful eating. And so this basic mindful bite will be your fundamental technique, and you will approach the mindful eating now in 4 ways. First is arriving at food, awakening to food, tuning into the body, and service with food. And I'm going to take a moment to go through each one of these. Step 1, arriving at food. When you arrive at food, you're basically becoming very aware before a meal or snack that food has come into your personal space. It may sound simple to you, but actually it's more difficult than you might think because food is extremely abundant for us. In our society, food is really all over, everywhere we turn. We scarcely even, know that we're eating or that we made a choice to eat. So before you begin eating any meal or snack, in order to really arrive at that meal, I would recommend you are silent for 30 seconds. Take a very close look at the food that's on your plate in front of you. And notice the colors, notice the shapes, notice the arrangement. Name to yourself what food is on your plate. Maybe name the plants that are on your plate. Bring your face close to the plate. Smell the food. What are the aromas? Think about the human effort that it took to get the food on that plate to you. And then imagine yourself eating the food attentively and on purpose. So attentively and with intention. Attention and intention. That's truly arriving at food. I do tell my clients all the time, when you put your food on the plate and you sit down on the table, instead of just diving into that plate, take those 30 seconds, sort of a cleansing breath, if you will. Center yourself, and then begin eating. Arrive at your food. If you do this step seriously, you will truly have arrived at your meal, and it sets the stage for you to have continued mindfulness during the remaining part of your meal. Step 2 is awakening. Awaken to your meal. Awakening to your food means that you're really paying very, very close attention to all aspects of the food. So you're noticing the sensations of the food that are in your mouth now. So the taste of the food, the change of taste as you're eating it, the texture, the aroma, the temperature. A very mindful eater is going to spend at least one moment during each bite waking up to some aspect of the food. So if you want to try step 2, awakening with, say, pretzels, bite number 1, or as you're about to take bite number 1, you're going to look at the shape. You're going to look at the color. And as you take bite number 2, the flavor and the aftertaste. Bite 3, the texture. Bite 4, the sounds. It's crunchy, right? It makes a sound. Bite 5, the gratitude. Gratitude that you have around the food and how it came into your space. You could practice it with anything. Step 3, tune into your body. Mindful eaters pay very, very close attention to themselves as they eat. You may want to think about how many chews does it take for you to chew your food completely. Now, I do want to make it clear, I do not recommend people chew a certain number of chews. I do not recommend, chew 20 chews per bite, 30 chews per bite, because why? That's just another rule. Those are dieters' rules. I don't do rules. That's what we started our presentation with, right? No rules, no rules. Rules aren't anywhere in intuitive eating. But I will say that if you're a mindful eater and you're learning about yourself from the inside, you're tuning into your body, you will start to learn your own how many chews do I typically need to take. Well, you all need to slow down. Chew your food a little bit better. Notice how your body feels as you eat. What are the physical sensations that you experience while you're eating and after you're eating? How does that food make you feel? Are you feeling tired after you're eating it? Do you feel sluggish? Are you feeling bloated? Are you having potentially a reaction to it? Tuning into your body also means noticing what emotions you have around the food that you're eating. You see, with mindful eating, there's no good food, there's no bad food. We have no guilt associated with what we eat. Step 4, service. Mindful eating includes being aware of all the activities that surround food and eating. So you want to approach this step, not as an obligation, but as an opportunity to really be present and to yet honor another aspect of your eating. And so that means not just preparing your meals, but cleaning up after your meal, loading the dishwasher, putting away the leftovers. Don't just do it to get it over with. Do it fully present, fully present, aware of each moment. Because when you adopt a very careful, deliberate way of behaving with any action that's revolving and involving food, you will stay in the moment and you will honor your food much more. And that's really what it's all about. So these are the 4 steps towards mindful eating. There are so many benefits we started off with about mindful eating, and I do want to just sum up 4 really important benefits to mindful eating before we move on to something else I want to talk about. So number 1 is when you engage in these mindful eating practices, you will have an increased pleasure in your eating experience and in the foods that you're eating. You will be able to understand and identify what we call comfortable satiety, not overfull, and therefore you'll eat less, you'll take in less calories, and you will achieve a healthy weight. You will be able to identify the physical effects that food has. So if you have irritable bowel syndrome, for example, or food sensitivities, food triggers, you'll be able to clearly really define what those are, utilizing the mindful eating approach. And you will identify true food preferences. Because again, using this approach, what you thought you liked, you might find that you truly don't even like. So let's take a moment to talk about hunger versus satiety. So how do you know when it's time to eat? Do you eat by the clock on the wall? It's 12 o'clock, it's lunchtime. At 6 o'clock, it's dinner time. For so many people, that's how they base when they should be eating. You can tell if you're hungry based on some physical signs. Growling, stomach grumbling, stomach pain, a headache. The desire to eat doesn't go away. The desire for food intensifies over time. And even a non-favorite food sounds pretty good if you're truly, truly hungry. I know that I remember my husband would always say that when my kids would complain they're hungry, and I would say, would you like this? No. Would you like this? No. Would you like this? No. He would say, Grandma always said, if this is not good and this is not good, you're not truly hungry. It's probably true. Do not ignore true hunger. You see, many chronic dieters utilize tricks to push away the hunger. Think about that for just a minute. Maybe they'll say, I can't be hungry now, I just ate an hour and a half ago. No, if you really truly understand what hunger is and what hunger feels like, you might be hungry. Honor that hunger. Most people do need to eat every 3 or 4 hours while they're awake. Some even every 2 hours. You need to learn what your need is. Our liver is our fuel tank. Our fuel tank stores fuel for roughly 3 to 6 hours. So it makes sense that every 3 or 4 hours we might need to refuel. But again, for some, that might be every 2. No right, no wrong. It's what's right for you. And if we don't properly fuel, it affects our metabolic rate, our blood sugar levels, our mood. Did you ever know somebody that was hungry? What kind of mood are they in? So this is a hunger fullness scale that I often use with my clients. We'll start in the middle at 5. That's the neutral place. That means you're not hungry and you're not full. If you're at a level 5, you shouldn't be eating. As you go down the scale to a 4, your hunger is beginning to awaken. At 3, your hunger pangs are pretty much set. At 1, you're ravenous. At 0, you're empty, gotta lie down, I can't even move. Back on the other side, again, 5, you're neutral, not hungry, not full. As you hit 6 during a meal, you're just satisfied. As you hit 7, you're completely satisfied. 8, you're full. 9, you're stuffed. And 10, you're sick. You think, I don't want to ever see food again until the next meal. So here's the thing. Where should you really be eating? You should be eating in that gray area. You should start eating at a level 4 when hunger is just awakening. And you should stop eating when you're comfortably satisfied. Not when you're full, when you're comfortably satisfied. Now, there's so much more that I could talk about on this, which we don't have time for today. And this also ties into what I started earlier about intuitive eating. This just gives you a little bit of an idea, so you can think about that the next time you're going to go sit down to your meal, or when to walk away. Hunger versus cravings. So what's a craving? If you look up the definition of a craving, it's a powerful or strong desire for something. So you don't have any physical hunger pains when you're having a craving. The thought of eating will go away if you're distracted, and you want something specific. So it could be crunchy, it could be salt, it could be sweet, salty or sweet. You want something very specific. That's a craving. It's very normal to have cravings. If you have a true craving, typically you have a couple of bites of something and that craving should go. If you find you're eating more than just a few bites, we have to talk. Because you need to relate to these very, very mindfully and not get blinded by them. Be aware of what these cravings are and what the messages are. And so, if it's not really going away, I will ask you, what are you truly craving and what are you truly hungry for? Is it love? Is it fun? Is it companionship? Because sometimes it's not just food. Mindful portions. So, in the 1950s, the restaurant portions were way different than they are now. They've like quadrupled in size. And this is French fries, cookies, steaks in your favorite steakhouse, you name it, the portions have gone out of control. They've ballooned. Research shows that somebody's going to eat what's in front of them, even if they're full. So when we talk mindful eating, how do we determine what is a portion? Well, before we talk about that, what do you consider a portion? Oftentimes, somebody considers a portion is what's on their plate in front of them. That's my portion, that's what I'm going to eat. But a mindful portion really includes how often you eat, how much food is on that fork, how long it takes you to chew your food, how often you stop during your meal to find out if you really need more, because maybe you don't and you should be stopping. And how much time you take to pause in between bites. That ultimately is going to determine what your mindful portion is. This is the mindful eating plate. Years ago, we had the food guide pyramid from the USDA. They switched it over to what's called the My Plate. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but this is what the mindful eating plate looks like. And it has different components. If we start with aware in the upper right-hand corner, that's the cornerstone of mindful eating. Remember, we talked about awareness in terms of mindfulness. Are you really tasting your food, or are you just mindlessly munching away? Savor. Are you noticing the texture and the taste and the temperature and the aroma of everything you're eating? Are you in the moment, fully present, or is your mind wandering? Are you observing how your body is feeling as you're eating and right after you're eating? And are you eating in a non-judgmental way? You're not passing judgment on yourself. There's no guilty feelings, right, wrong, I should be, I shouldn't be, I'm eating something good, I'm not. There is no guilt in mindful eating. You can often remember mindful eating with the 4 S's of mindful eating. S, number 1, sit down. Only eat while off your feet. Savor each bite, slowly chew, and still your mind. So the 4 S's of mindful eating, if you want a quick way to remember, sit, savor, slow, and still. So I did promise I would give you some really specific takeaways that you can start using right away. Because I know that changing habits, specifically eating habits, is difficult, and forming new ones even more difficult. It takes time, so be patient with yourself. Eating sitting down, I said that before, but I just want to say it again, because here's the thing. Do you ever grab something when you're standing at the counter? Do you ever open the fridge and just pop something in your mouth? You've got to sit down. Even if you're eating a carrot, you have to sit down. Create ambiance. There's nothing wrong with setting the table, putting a nice flowers on the table, a placemat or a tablecloth. Make it as if you're in a restaurant. Putting a little music on the background. Create ambiance. It'll make your meal so much more enjoyable. It just comes to my mind, a client that I love, she just shared a story with me that she lives alone and was practicing this, and she was ready to sit down to her dinner, and her neighbor came in to borrow something, and he knocks on the door and he walks in and she says, "Come in, I'll get it for you," and he sees the table all set, and he says, "Oh, you having company? oh, for one? He thought it was strange. But he knew what she was doing, and they were kind of goofing with each other, and she says, all right, leave, I'm having dinner with myself. So it was really a nice story. Eat without the TV, eat without the newspaper. Don't sit in front of the computer, even if you're eating peanuts at night. No, at the table. Focus on every single bite that's in your mouth, not the next one on the fork. This, I know, is a challenge, and I'm really going to ask you to think about this tonight when you go to eat dinner. When you put a piece of food on that fork, and that fork goes into your mouth, are you already putting more food on that fork? If we're really being true and honest, most likely I would say the majority of you are saying yes. Slow down. Eat with chopsticks or with your non-dominant hand. So here's the thing, research does show that if you eat with chopsticks or your non-dominant hand, so if you're righty, eat with your left hand, you will eat 30% less. Don't eat from a bag or a box. You want to take a nosh? Okay. Put it on a plate, put the box away, sit down, and utilize this mindful eating bite that I taught you. Box up half the meal at a restaurant. We already just said the portion sizes in restaurants are huge. We're going to eat what's in front of us. We don't want to do that. Box up half and then engage in mindful eating with what's remaining. And then guess what? You have that delicious meal for another meal that week, instead of stuffing it all in and walking out of the restaurant and you can't breathe. Keep extra food away from the table. So this is something that I like to suggest, because as much as we all have the best of intentions and want to engage in mindful eating, and this sounds great, we really do need to set up our environment for success. And I like to suggest, if possible, plating your food from the counter or the stovetop and sitting down with your plate, even if you're sitting with others. Because when you have serving dishes on the table, it's so much easier to stop picking and picking, and you're less mindful. Use a smaller plate at mealtime. They have now really big, I don't know if you buy your paper goods at Costco, but they've got really big 10 1/4 or 10 1/2 inch dinner plates, and then they have the like 9-inch size. Our dinner plates should be 8 or 9 inch, just saying. So those big size dinner plates, best off you leave them in Costco. Don't skip meals. People think, oh, I'll skip meals because I'm going to a simcha later, or I won't eat or eat less. You set yourself up to overeat. Plan ahead of time. Keep a mindful eating journal. Mindful eating journal is not a food journal. That's dieting, and we know already I don't do diets. Mindful eating journal is log what you've eaten, log your feelings, log how you enjoyed it, log the taste of the food, how did it feel in your body, your feelings before and after, etc. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. The take-home message today is mindful eating involves full attention to the experience of eating and drinking, both inside and outside of the body. Mindful eating helps you learn, hear what your body is telling you about your hunger, about your satisfaction. It improves your overall health. My little mantra would be, now is the time. Make mindful choices today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Try it at dinner tonight. Thank you. Oh, wait. I have additional resources for you. If anybody would like, I have written an ebook that is free for you to download. It's called 5 Steps to a Body You Love Without Dieting. This book takes you through the 5 phases of becoming an intuitive eater that I utilize with my clients. And you can download it for free at dietfreezone.com. In addition, I do have a home study program called Beat the Stress Without the Weight Gain, and that's located at my website, brghealth.com/beatthestress. And if anybody is interested in my intuitive eating program and knows somebody that might benefit from it, it's called I Eat Mindfully, and you can find information at brghealth.com. And I'm always available to speak with people. Talkwithbonnie.com will get somebody, if you know, and able to kind of just get on the phone with me and chat for a few minutes to see if I can help them. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to take those questions now. Yes.
The question is, if you're like eating with your family or your spouse, and normally when you're eating, you'd be talking, you know, about things, is that a distraction? And how can you do that and still?
Well, oh, repeat the question, yes. The question is, how can you engage in mindful eating if you're eating with your spouse or your family and you're engaged in conversation? So it's an excellent question. So my first point would be, engage the entire family in the mindful eating approach. It's never too early to teach the children or our spouses how to be more mindful in our eating. And so that's something that I do as well. And when you're speaking with your family, it doesn't mean that you have to take away from the focus on what you're eating. You could speak about the food as well. But you may find that if you have any meals that you're eating by yourself, you can practice these skills. So say breakfast, you're not eating with the family. Practice these skills on when you're alone, and they become very habitual. They become habits, and they become automatic. And then as you practice them, you'll find that it's just the way in which you eat. So it evolves over time. But eating, and yes, family meals are very important, and talking with your family is not the distraction that I'm referring to. But I definitely would recommend practicing these. If these tips are very foreign, then I would say practice it when you are eating alone, and they'll become more natural when you're eating with the family. Yes?
On the other end of the spectrum of what you were just saying, people who are alone and ignore eating with somebody else, with a group at a lunch
Yes.
or at a dinner.
Yes.
And I don't see that as a distraction. I see that as somebody being happy with what they're eating and enjoying their meal slowly because they're engaging in conversation. Would you equate that to distraction?
No, I agree. I think eating with others in a social situation is wonderful. And when anybody who is alone, the more often they could eat with others is wonderful, and they should. Distraction really is where you are engaging in other types of stimuli. You know, you're reading, you're watching TV, you're talking on the phone, and it's really taking your focus away from the food. When you are eating with other people, you're both engaged in the eating itself. So it's a difference. Yes.
I think that the program is theoretically a beautiful program, but it has two things to be marked. Number one, to follow this program, it's almost like creating a love affair with eating. And if you are so focused on what you're eating, you could become an obsessive eater. It will encourage you to eat even more and desire more to eat. So that's another one.
So let me address that first,
Yeah.
because my memory is a little bit going, so I want to remember that. So the question was, if you are learning and focusing so much on becoming a mindful eater, won't you possibly become obsessed and become a compulsive overeater? And the answer is no. The studies show that as you practice mindful eating, on the contrary, food holds less of an importance for you. You begin to enjoy the pleasures of eating much more, and it cuts down on the potential eating disorders and compulsive overeating. Because people who unfortunately have eating disorders, whether they be binge eating, anorexia, compulsive overeating, they're not enjoying their food, correct? They're focused way too much on their body and their weight and how food is affecting them in terms of their weight. When we take that pressure off, we are actually allowing ourselves to enjoy what food is intended. Food was always intended for us to enjoy it as a pleasurable experience. So on the contrary, the studies don't show that. But I will agree that initially, when one is learning to become an intuitive eater and a mindful eater, we are a little bit more hyper-conscious in our eating. But that's only through the journey that you're taking. It's part of the learning process. Eventually, as it becomes more a part of your being, it's no longer hyper-conscious. It's just part of you. I understand. Listen, I was once that young woman with 4 children, okay? And it was difficult, but I will tell you that this is the message. This is why I'm telling you that in the last 4 years, I'm trying to get this message out to young and old alike, because it's so important to practice self-care for your own health. If these young women take care of themselves, they will be better to those children and to their spouse and to everybody else. And I work with these young women to learn and to teach them how to bring themselves back up on that totem pole. It is a challenge, but it absolutely can be done, and it should be done. It's not easy, but nothing in life is easy. But if one truly desires it, it's very possible. With the right guidance. It can't be done on your own sometimes when you have a lot of kids hanging on your skirt. It's true. Yes. I can't hear you, I'm sorry. Shh. Yes. Good point. Good point. Thank you. People who say a bracha before they eat are actually arriving at their meal and appreciating and being mindful. That was a very good point. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, yes?
You mentioned meditation. Can you spend 1 minute saying when would you meditate, before, after? What is, you say something about
I said about meditation in that some of the studies that are out there show that when the mindful eating practices are utilized in programs along with meditation and nutrition, then the results are showing a decrease in weight significantly, improved glycemic control, decreased anxiety, etc. It doesn't, at any point in time, I mean, you know, meditation is not so much related to before or after a meal. In general, utilizing meditation practices in your life. So for some, that might mean starting the morning with 10 minutes of meditation, or it might mean midday. It depends on the individual.
I just want to say, when you talk about dieting and you don't have rules and all these things, so where do the diets fit into anything, anywhere? And what's the concept of a diet?
You know, if you look up the definition of diet in the dictionary, it's a way of eating. But unfortunately, over the years, dieting has become a multi-billion-dollar business of restriction, of gimmicks, and there is always going to be another diet around the corner to take people further and further away from what they were born with, and that's being an intuitive eater. And that's why diets don't work. So no, diets don't work. Diets are not the answer.
Right, but what about nutritional, what you are eating, not just...
Nutritional guidance is extremely important, 100%. So there's different individuals. An individual who doesn't have a diet mindset, an individual who says, I need to learn about nutrition. I never learned what a protein is, a carb, how do I balance a meal? Thus, a healthy eating plan that's crafted for them, utilizing their nutritional needs and taught as a guideline, as a blueprint, is beautiful. It works wonders for them because they learn a lot. But because they don't have any rules. They were never a dieter, they never struggled. It's the class of individuals who have really struggled. You see, those other class of individuals, they're truly intuitive eaters. They just needed the nutrition components, right? This other class of individuals who have struggled, they're the ones who first need to return to what they were born with, and then the nutrition comes into play. Obviously, nutrition is very important to me. It's dear to my heart. I've studied it, I practice it, I teach it. It's just that who and where and you're talking to depends at what point you bring nutrition in. If nutrition is going to be brought into the conversation, but the individual is hearing it as more rules, it's going to backfire. If the individual has a healthy mindset, then this nutrition is going to come from a better perspective. One more question? Yeah. I'm sorry? Well, your spouse could be included in your mindful eating practices. He says, with all the focus on eating, when do you speak with your spouses? They should be included in your life and other aspects too. I don't know if we have time for more questions or.
Okay, we'll take these, the last two, and then you can email questions to me in the office, and I'll be happy to get them to Bonnie.
That's fine.
Okay?
Yes.
About meditating before a meal or whatever you say. How do you feel about
Hypnosis in terms of? Right, as another way to help somebody lose weight, I don't support that. I don't believe in that. Meditation really just helps people come into their present spot, their present place. It's very, very different than hypnosis. I'm not an expert in meditation, so I really can't speak to meditation per se. I'm more an expert in mindful eating, and but I don't believe in the hypnosis. It's also a short-term fix. Sorry. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much. Dieters who are struggling to lose weight and people with medical conditions such as diabetes and IBS break free from the pain of dieting and take back control so they can achieve the healthy body and life that they want. And I do this by providing them with the 3 things they really need to succeed: a healthy non-diet mindset, nutrition education, and caring support. I utilize the principles of intuitive eating, which is eating based on your physiological need to eat, your hunger and your satiety cues, not based on situations, not based on emotions. And the result is they lose the weight, keep it off, achieve optimal blood sugar control, and live a healthy life with guilt-free eating and symptom-free. So today's topic, vibrant living through mindful eating to improve weight, digestion, and health. Well, my big promise right here and right now is by the end of this presentation, you will have the basic principles that you need in your toolbox in order to be a mindful eater, so that you can truly enjoy the pleasures of eating without feelings of deprivation, without feelings of restriction, with the ultimate goal of living a healthy and vibrant life. But before we go into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about my story. That's my clan. I'm married. I have 4 children. My oldest son is married. That's my grandson, Evan, who turned 11 months yesterday. Thank you. My husband's missing from the picture because we found out that he's always the one taking the pictures, and I couldn't find one with him in it, so we will have to change that. One of the most challenging times in my life was after I had my 4th child, and that's Lauren with the purple glasses. That was out of why? Because when they would follow the eating plan or the meal plan, the healthy eating plan that I created for them, they were able to shed the weight and their blood sugars improved and so forth. But yet, why were some of them gaining some of that weight back? And I realized that these were the people that struggled year after year. These were the people that were chronic dieters, that turned a healthy eating plan into rules. And rules don't ever work. And so I researched and I tried to find another solution, and that's when I came upon the intuitive eating that I mentioned a moment ago. And I'll show you how mindful eating and intuitive eating go hand in hand. And so for the last several years, that's how I work mostly with my clients who are struggling like this, utilizing intuitive eating, utilizing mindful eating. So the objectives for today is we are going to define what mindful eating is. I would like to tell you what it isn't, what it is, and how it's going to benefit your weight, whether you need to lose weight, gain weight, or maintain weight, your digestion, and your health. You will learn 4 steps on how to practice mindful eating, I will help you to understand how to identify between hunger versus satiety, and you will learn some easy tips that you can incorporate for mindful eating into your daily schedule today. So I've been mentioning about intuitive eating, so before I delve into mindful eating, I do want to just talk a little bit about this because I think it's really important. I started to say intuitive eating is eating characterized by your physiological need to eat. Again, your hunger and your satiety signals, not based on situations, so not based on a kiddush you're going to after davening, not based on a wedding that you're going to, and not based on emotions. Bat mitzvah celebration we were recently at. She will actually, Met Hashem, be bat mitzvah next month. And why was it challenging? Because I had 3 jobs at the time. I was running 2 nutrition offices. I was the director of a dietetic internship program, and I was running around a lot. I was traveling. I was doing so much. I was exhausted. I was depleted. And I remember going to my primary care physician at some point and just complaining to him how I couldn't bounce back to the way I was before that last pregnancy. And he said to me, well, you know what you need to do? You need to get back to your exercise, because I always was an exerciser. And I just looked at him and I said, no offense to the men here, you're such a man. You just don't understand. I have so much on my plate. I don't have time for me. And I just uttered basically the words that is one of the most, I think, used excuses not to exercise. I don't have time. And I knew that. And all the way driving home, I was crying in the car and I was thinking, you know, how am I going to make this happen? And I knew by the time I got home that I needed to make a change. I needed to make self-care a priority. I need to get back to my mindful eating and living so that I could be the best that I could be for everybody. And that's what I did. And I went on to continue to practice. Was feeling great and feeling strong. And all the years in my practice, I'm in practice now 26 years. And I would create, I never did diets by the definition of diets. You know, clients would come in to see me and I would create healthy meal plans for them depending on what their needs were. You know, a couple years ago, I realized something is not right for a certain class of the individuals that I'm working with.
Thank you so much for coming to Session 2 of Spirit, the stimulating program initiative for retirees that inspires thought. I'm Judy Steinig, Rebbitzin of the Young Israel of Bayside and Associate Director, Community Services of the Orthodox Union, and it is a pleasure to welcome all of you. This event is a program of the OU in conjunction with Young Israel of Woodmere, OHEL, and STAJE, an organization that works with retirees to bring Jewish meaning to their next stage of life. Spirit has been presented in Teaneck, New Jersey, Boynton Beach, and Boca Raton, Florida, and we are so happy to be presenting it here in the 5 towns. Those of you who do not live in the 5 towns and are in other communities, we're very, very happy to have you. And if you would like to see this program in your community, tell the officers and leadership of your shul to please contact us at the OU, because we'd like to see it in many, many communities. The OU recognizes that as the generation of baby boomers leaves their professional responsibilities, they are looking for educational stimulation. The goal of this program is to provide active retirees with opportunities for spiritual and intellectual growth within their communities. We truly appreciate the hospitality of Young Israel of Woodmere and the assistance of Rabbi Billet Morad Asra, who spoke for us last week, Rabbi Axelrod, Danny Frankel, Executive Director, the board and membership of the synagogue for the promotion of this program. And by the way, for those of you who missed last week's program with Rabbi Billet and Harriet Blank, as you can see, we're having a video of the program, and Moshe, it's going to be, it's available now, right? The OU will be putting it up online, and it will be accessible to everyone very, very shortly. I'd also like to thank who's out in the lobby, Adina Schwartzbaum, our associate from the OU, who's been here since very early this morning, making sure that we had everything we needed for the program. Today's program will take a new look at nutrition and how we make food choices. We are very happy to have Bonnie Giller speak on vibrant living through mindful eating to improve your weight, digestion, and health. She will be followed later on by Rabbi Eitan Feiner on food, glorious food, and the Torah's mandate for healthy eating. We want to thank you so much for coming. We want to tell you to enjoy the program. And next week, tell your friends to join us for the rest of the series. Last week, for those of you who were there, you know we had 2 rows of tables. Now we have 3. At Kenai Nahara, they're all filled. But we still have more room, so we're happy for the end series. And during the break, I will tell you what's up and coming to fill the rest of this room. So please let everybody know how excellent this program is and enjoy the day. It's my pleasure to call upon Bonnie Giller.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I am very, very excited to be here this afternoon to talk with you about a topic that I am very, very passionate about. Why I'm so passionate about it, I'm going to share with you shortly. And it's only been in the last 3 to 4 years that I have actually really come to love this topic and to learn more and more about it and sharing it with so many people. As a registered dietitian, nutritionist, certified diabetes educator, and certified intuitive eating counselor, I help chronic